Welcome back to Heroes and Droids, your guide to movies and TV shows about superheroes, sci-fi, Disney, and action. From Marvel to DC, from Star Wars to Star Trek, from James Bond to the Fast and the Furious. We will review theatrical films and streaming delights you care about most. And tonight we are looking at Star Wars: The Bad Batch. Now we fell behind. So we're doing a double. We're doing a double to catch up. We are doing episode 13 and 14 together. 13 is called Infested. 14 is the title of War-Mantle. This is all my fault. I went on vacation.
It's a Bad Batch batch.
It's a Bad Batch batch. I am your host, Dak Rotten. Join me are the crew, starting off with the Slattman. Sir, how are you doing?
Good. I just want to show off my little stormtrooper.
Oh, yes.
Since he's relevant this week. Finally.
Yes, we get all that information. I have a film. There's more to come. All right. Also joining us, podcast Rockstar and international cosplay queen, Vanessa. How you doing?
I am doing great. I'm excited to be talking Bad Batch again, and I cannot believe we're almost at the end.
Two more episodes after these.
One. Because we're getting 2 seasons
That's
now.
true.
We got season 2 was announced. Yes.
Confirmed, and that's very exciting. That it's not going to be over. And they're not, well, we know they're not all going to die in episode 16.
Hopefully. I mean.
Yeah,
it could be an entirely different Bad Batch. No.
It's like the Suicide Squad with
That's
random people coming in.
Oh, no. Okay, that voice you hear is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful.
Wonderful.
I'm wondering if they're going to have 1 million episodes for season 2. Like they've had for this season.
Can they make them that fast, or have they already made them? I don't know.
I know.
All right, what are we talking about? We have a double here. We got season 1, episode 13, Infested. It aired July 23rd, and the synopsis was to save a friend. The Batch plot a mission to sabotage a gangster's operation. And then episode 14, War-Mantle, was July 30th, 2021. And the synopsis is after receiving a mysterious distress call, the Batch track it to a secret facility. There's a lot hidden between those two descriptions. So what we're going to do first is give our first impression, and then we'll dive into Christopher G. Moore's Easter eggs and Star Wars trivia that's involved in this, and then we'll kind of yak about the films for a little bit.
Mantel mix of trivia.
Mantel. All right, Slattman, sir, you have a interesting take, I think, on these 2 episodes. What is your first impression of episode 13 and 14?
Episode 13 is easily the worst episode of this whole season, and episode 14 was fan-freaking-tastic. Next.
Next. All right, he's just to the quick. All right.
He wants to get past those spoilers.
Yeah, you're going to have to explain yourself at some point, right? All right, Vanessa, what was your first impression of episode 13 and 14?
Well, I did not hate 13 as much.
I never said I hated it. I just said it was the worst episode of the season.
Okay.
Good point.
If we're gonna call one worst, maybe, but I still thought it was kind of fun, and I liked seeing Sid in a different light. But yeah, I think we're gonna spend most of our time on 14, and then 15 and 16 when those come, because that was an amazing episode. These episodes have the ability to feel like really great TV, like almost to the point where these were written for live action and then translated into the way that they're shown in the cartoon, because some of the scenes, some of the dialogue, some of the shots are just so sophisticated that it just makes it so much more fun overall, because it's so believable. That I can do with a Ruby or 2 in there.
A Ruby or 2, yes, I like that. All right, Christopher G. Moore, sir, our Star Wars fanatic. What is your first impression of episode 13 and 14?
I don't know. That seemed not sure if that was a compliment, the way you phrased that. There's a little sarcasm in that. I loved both these episodes. I think Episode 13 is like a side mission episode. It's like the A-Team episode where they're going off and doing something. And there's a whole lot of other episodes in this season that are much worse than that. I've mentioned it before. People have gotten on my case about it.
You have.
But I'll say, yeah, I think most of those episodes are great. And really sort of build, especially 14 definitely builds to a certain level and gives us certain elements that sort of fulfill what's going to happen later. So, and all, how this is all playing out to where a lot of it has to do with, War-Mantle being, the dismantling of clone troopers. So, so yeah, I think there's 2 really fun episodes, and I can understand people's issue with 13. You could take 13 out; it's not going to affect the story at all. But it's a great aliens type mission. It's I think it's a great horror story. So, but it doesn't really. You could take it out; it doesn't really affect the story that much.
At least not yet. At least not yet.
Not that you know.
Yeah, because it has potential to, because it may have laid some groundwork for season 2 episodes with the gangster and the that other group of whatever the hell they were. People.
Pikes.
The Pikes.
The Pikes have been around for forever.
Have they?
The Pikes were involved with Maul in Clone Wars and the whole crime syndicate thing, and
they were in Solo as well.
Yeah.
Were they? Did I miss? Is that okay?
And I'm pretty sure the Pikes have been around even before the Disney canon, and they were a part of like a bajillion different Legends books as well.
So I guess that supports what I'm saying. I think they're laying the groundwork for another story, because I think that one character is going to come back. The one with the horns that gets. I don't know. Roland, we'll call him Roland. I enjoyed both these episodes. I do agree that episode 14 is far superior. It is really an excellent episode. It also really leads into our final 2 episodes really well. And there are some things that happen in it that I can't wait to discuss, probably more so than anything that happens in 13. So in that respect, I can see where this is going. But I enjoyed the first one because 13, because it had I think a really couple significant moments with our characters. Omega being the one I'm talking about. But we'll get into all that. So to me, I'm kind of on Christopher's side here. I it may not be top notch, but I don't know if it's the worst one. A candidate maybe. I don't know. Now I got to think about it. I wasn't thinking about being the worst. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, there you go. So let's get into you know what? Before we get into our discussion, Christopher G. Moore, it is your time to shine, sir. Because now you've got to do it twice. What are some of the Easter eggs and other, Star Wars nuggets hidden in these 2 episodes?
Okay. Well, we'll start with episode 13, Infested. I mean, from the get-go, when the Bad Batch shows up, they mention the drop zone swarming with Gundarks, which, if you remember, in Empire, you look strong enough to pull the ears off a Gundark. And then in Attack of the Clones, there's a part in the elevator where Obi-Wan and Anakin are talking, and Obi-Wan's like, I haven't felt you this tense since you were in that nest of Gundarks. And then, and of course, in Clone Wars, we actually get to see them fight Gundarks. So yeah, that's a nice little reference to a lot of that stuff that actually ties in later when they have to fight the nest of weird creatures. Of course, we mentioned the Pikes, which have been in Clone Wars and Solo. And actually, there was somebody who pointed out that's one of the few things they don't really make the same when it comes to the soldiers and stuff with the Pikes and stuff. They're all wearing different things, like in Solo and Clone Wars, and so that's the one thing they canon-wise they don't seem to be on the same page. We saw a Bith alien in the bar, which if you remember from the Cantina band of New Hope. Of course, Pet Ruby was actually the pet that they had in, I think it was episode 7, where they had it in the cage, and they were having problems with that. So we get the return of that, and we kind of find out where that pet went. The mining carts are very. There's always a lot of Spielberg type stuff in this, and episode 14 as well. But in this one, the mining carts are almost similar to the Indiana Jones moment in Temple of Doom.
Very much so, yeah.
Also, if you pay attention, the sort of bat-like creatures throughout War-Mantle, there's actually a little bit of graffiti of those bats on the walls, so you get a sort of an early indicator of what they're about to fight. That's one of the things they've been having to deal with and the underneath everything. Of course, we have the new character Roland Durand, who's a Deveronian. And that's based. And if you remember New Hope, he was that weird devil guy in New Hope in the cantina.
Oh, wow.
So that group of aliens, have now spawned their own sort of thing with that character. Also, of course, spice trade, spice smuggling. We used to know that a guy named Solo, who was all about the smuggling spice, and so we have a continuation of the spice trade there.
What is spice supposed to be like?
It's spice.
But like, is it like a drug? Is it like
it's a cure-all. It's literally used.
It's kind of like catnip.
Catnip.
It can be used as medicine. It can be used as a drug. It can be used in food. It can be. It's kind of it's Star Wars's like version of a 1940s cure-all.
It's Ewok cocaine.
They don't need it.
Or do they? That's
okay.
So that's a few of the things in episode 13. Episode 14, I'll go real quick. The opening of that chase with all the flashlights is very reminiscent of the beginning of E.T. with all the flashlights, the people going through the woods and stuff. So another sort of Spielberg type moment. Yeah. They're chased by massives, which of course were in Attack of the Clones as well as the Mandalorian.
What? Say that again. They were chased by what?
I think they're called massives. They're like dog-like creatures. And in season 2, the Mandalorian, one of them shows up, and actually the Mandalorian comes over and rubs him like he's a dog. Of course, we have Gregor, who was in the Clone Wars episode where he had amnesia, and then he shows up as an older person in Rebels. So we get to sort of see a little bit of his backstory. During the rescue mission, they play the music that plays on the Death Star in A New Hope. When Chewbacca and them are on the Death Star, they play the same exact music.
Really?
When is it? When do they play it? I have to go back and listen.
When some of the batch people are going through the halls and stuff, they're trying to rescue them.
towards the end.
Yeah.
Before they get them or after they get them.
I think it's after they get them when they're going through the halls and trying to escape.
Okay.
It's the same stuff when Chewbacca and them are on it, so it's the same music in that.
How fun!
And I think probably one of my favorite moments is we finally find out the use for a gonk droid, which is basically he's a battery pack. He's a walking battery pack. So I kind of hope that they actually make battery packs for your phone or something.
Oh,
nice. Please do that, because I will buy one of those and have it where it walks as well. Let's see. The Empire taking the cloner kind of ties into Palpatine's cloning stuff.
Oh, I know.
So they're going to utilize that for what we find out in The Rise of Skywalker. So we have connections to some of the movie stuff.
Scientists we can use.
The base that they go into is very similar to the base on Endor, just the way it's created and stuff. And I'm probably one thing that the Slattman will probably enjoy is the Star Wars Republic Commander. The blue visor helmet is the same from that Star Wars. Was it Republic Commanders? Is that the name of the video game?
Republic Commando. It's Scorch.
Yeah. So those the blue visors are from that video game, and so we finally get to sort of see that.
They actually
Wow.
confirmed it is the same character from
Oh, is it?
Oh, wow.
the book.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well, there
it's
you go.
supposed to be one of the 4 characters from that game in those books. Like
That's crazy
they're
how they
bringing
just
them, and another one of the characters was brought in, I think, in Clone Wars in a background scene at one point too. So they're slowly bringing in these characters from Legends into canon.
Oh,
So
wow. So that's
Sneaky. You're sneaky.
and then finally, if you pay attention, not only are we moving towards where they're not using clones and stuff, but you also could sort of see how the Empire is starting to create their own sort of production design with their places. And if you look at it when they're in the control panel in that base, it has the same red design and stuff as the Death Star. So you got to sort of see the beginnings of what the inside of the Death Star it looks like, just based on some of the control panels with the red and stuff. So, so that's a few of the things that I noticed. Unless anybody has anything else.
can I add one more?
Please.
So the new armor that we see in episode 14 for the clone, or the early stormtroopers, they are based on. I have to pull it up because I don't want to butcher this name. They are inspired on the early concept art for stormtrooper armor created by Ralph McQuarrie.
Macquarie. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So taking concept art from the 60s at this point, late 60s, and putting it on screen. That's fantastic.
Well, that's been some of the cool stuff of what they've been doing for some of these later things, like the movies and even the TV shows, is taking some of that stuff that they created in the beginning. We got to see a little bit of that in the Mandalorian show as well, with that, like the big the ice spider and stuff, which was loosely based on some of Macquarie's early stuff that never showed up in Empire Strikes Back. So it's great that they can finally sort of utilize that stuff and still create new stuff with it.
Yeah,
And
that's definitely a passion for the source material. Definitely.
Yeah, and it fits perfectly within, what the Empire is trying to do in this situation, because they got to go from the very expensive and practical clone armor to the very cheap and not practical stormtrooper armor, and this seems like a perfect stopgap.
Yeah, yeah. We learn how expendable they are because they talk about that when they pull the helmet off and they go, that's not a clone. And what's the new guy's name? The new old guy,
Gregor
gives them all the spiel about that they basically have a whole empire of volunteers, a never-ending supply. So they're expendable, so they don't need the same armor. They need just enough to give them a better shot, right? So that kind of explains a little bit. I do want to jump on this because we get to see little clones. Young clones, little Boba Fett clones. It feels like, right? That haven't, okay. So I thought that was interesting. Have we done that before, Slattman, where we've seen another generation of clones still?
There was a whole arc of young clones in Clone Wars, but I mean that was many years before this episode. So, but I mean, in theory, the Kaminoans were still making clones until this episode when the Empire said shut it down.
They did. This is the time they did that, right? And then
Was I the only person that was kind of worried that they were going to end up like the young kid Jedi?
I was thinking the same thing. That's where I'm heading with this. Yes,
because I'm like, ooh, they're taking us off somewhere, and I'm like, they may end up like that the political Kaminoan. I was like,
Skywalker.
I know. I was like, if one of those kids had said that, I was like, let's stay away from the child death.
What? So you're going where I'm going with this because I was thinking the exact same thing. But I'm wondering, like, do these kids, right? These younger, because do they have chips? Will they be, will they play anything in the future, or are they just in here and one and done?
I mean, if there's if season 2 is the, so I haven't seen episode 15 yet, so I don't know what happens. But my theory is that there's going to be some sort of clone uprising. and based on Christopher's face,
No, no, you might be right. Or you might be
but
wrong.
if there is a clone uprising, if that's the way that they go, even if it's a small scale clone uprising, like a faction of the rebellion, those children might play a part in the future. But if not, then they're probably just there to, for world building.
World building. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're not, the people that are doing this aren't lazy. They're putting these young clones in there for a reason. I have a feeling. Okay, I have a big question, and then we'll open this up for everybody. I'm sorry, I'm hogging everything, but this is again to Slattman. Gregor. He's not obviously affected by the chip, or it doesn't seem to be, right? He seems to have his own mind. Was that explained in the other episodes? Because I wasn't able to see those.
I honestly don't remember. I remember that there was a brief conversation in Rebels about the clones that were with Rex, about the chips and everything, but I don't remember if they specifically said anything about Gregor's chip.
Yeah, because he's obviously different than the others, right? And he's not a defective, right? But I liked his comment about being defective. Oh, you're the defective one. And then he goes on to say that the new stormtroopers are defective, right? All right, so I'm going to open this up about either episode. Give us some spiel. Okay, so we get. I'll seed it. We get to see Omega use her skills as a future pilot. It seems, right, Vanessa? Did you enjoy that?
Yes, that was fun. I liked, I love the relationships that she has with each of the individual Bad Batch members. So seeing her in that moment, especially when she was struggling, then Tech coming in, saying you did a good job or whatever, like I've got it, was very, very sweet. I really liked that a lot. And another Omega moment that I really liked a lot too was kind of more about her. I really liked in episode 13 how Sid really showed that she cared. She really has a bottom line, and it's money.
Mhm.
But at one point, she's like, I got the kid into this. I'm going to get her out. Like, it just shows her commitment, kind of, to, if not all of them, to her specifically. So, for nothing else, other than that episode just being a fun kind of adventure episode, I thought that was I liked seeing her take charge of the whole thing, and I liked seeing her show an emotional side.
Yeah. I also like that Omega was the only one that kind of sided with the
Roland.
Roland, right? And that it caught Hunter's attention, right? Because he was like, why'd you do that? And I feel like Hunter grew from that exchange.
Well, so did Omega, right? That was
right.
a real hard lesson she learned right there in how the world is, because they easily could have killed him in front of her. And I she's getting these hard and fast lessons, and that I feel like was one that showed her how the world is, but while it also allowed us to see that you don't have to lose your integrity, even though the world can be a terrible place or a scary place.
Yeah. Now, Christopher, your favorite character has often been shared with us as being Wrecker. Favorite Wrecker moments from these two episodes?
I don't know. I mean, it's like I think he's always the guy that's the first to want to tear stuff down, but he's also the first one that's he's a klutz. He's like the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings films that accidentally knocks the bucket down the well.
Yes.
He has those moments like where he. And you could always say, oh, he's always like, oh, height's great. He's always pointing out like, oh, great.
He literally drops the flashlight into the nest.
Yeah. He literally, creates a whole situation that they have to deal with. And so I think that it's just those kind of fun moments where, he's both a saving grace, but also the person sometimes that gets them into the situations they have to get themselves out of. So I don't know. I just love he's basically just, I mean, I think that's why he connects so much with Omega, because he's just a big kid. He's just a big burly kid who has his own issues and wants to eat Mantel mix after a mission. So Yeah, I just love those moments where you see him either light up with excitement because he gets to smash something, and at the same time, I did a bad thing.
Oh,
I especially loved when he was sitting there just all lounging back. And
yes,
he's just like, shouldn't we be preparing or shouldn't we be doing reconnaissance or something? Oh no, I'm preparing for when we get called in.
Well, he's always the first to point out, like, oh, I want food. Oh, well, or then you have to talk him into think, but we have to do this first. And so there's always those fun moments just where he's having to fight his own inclinations.
I think he definitely has probably the one of the best personalities of the core group.
Yeah, he gets the best dialogue too. So, like, Sid's right. The kid's right. There's a lot going on. All right. A big event happens at the end. Spoilers. And Hunter, unfortunately, has to be left behind on the mission at the end of 14 and captured by the Empire. And there's two things we need to talk about. One, where does that put him? And two, what about that cliffhanger with Crosshair? I smell something. Slattman, what do you think?
I don't know.
That's great podcast.
It could go one of two ways. It could be that that Crosshair is about to use him as bait to try and get the rest of them, or it could be that Crosshair has going to tell him that his inhibitor chip has been defective this whole time, and he's just a bad guy.
Yes.
Look, I'm going to tell y'all right now, there is a scene in the next episode that is going to make you cry or at least tear up because it is so damn good. The next episode 15 is maybe the best episode of the whole series.
Wow.
That's
I haven't seen it yet.
Back for the next
I haven't seen it yet either. Well, I found it very interesting. It's a great setup, to go into the last, 2 chapters, which are part 1, part 2. Am I right?
Yeah.
Or at least they feel that way whether they are on. And it puts our, like a good story, right, Christopher? You put your hero at peril, so you're excited about the final act, sort of, right? So I really like that they had that cliffhanger with Crosshair coming in and saying, I was expecting the whole batch, but you'll do. And they're like, what does that mean? Because I could go, like you said, 2 ways. He could be faking, being part, he could be at some point turned over to be a spy, a double crosser, right? A double crosser, whatever. I don't even know what it is, but I was so excited with this. But jump on that storytelling moment, Christopher, because you being award-winning filmmaker, and I'm not using that as derogatory. I mean it seriously. That's a pretty important element to do at this point in a 16 episode series, right? To have that happen.
Well, I mean, it was something where they're going to have to sort of cross paths again at some point and have to deal with the ramifications of what they've all been sort of escaping from and escaping from each other from, or him going after them. So yeah, I think it's because this whole series you started with them sort of being a unit, a team together, and then to sort of be cut apart because of the situation and their own thoughts of what a good soldier is supposed to do or what they're supposed to do, and what does that mean now that they really don't have the same people that they're fighting for anymore, to where it becomes, I mean, literally like their outfits, which become more gray as this show goes along. They become less like the stormtroopers they were and more about this sort of gray area between the two. Like, what are we fighting for? What do we meant? What is our purpose now? And when you have one of your own soldiers that's sort of trying to follow their own path, and what does that mean to is he still this family member who's this distraught family member? Is he still being controlled by all this? And so, yeah, I think this is what we all sort of been moving towards throughout this whole series. And I think that's how they deal with it, and how Crosshair deals with it, and how they deal with Crosshair is going to be the big thing. Are they going to be on the same page again? Or are they going to have to take him out, or is this? I mean, this is what we're sort of coming to, and I think that's the cool thing about it, because in this whole thing we have Omega being part of this family, and they have this one family member that they still have problems with. And
uncle that you don't want showing up for Christmas dinner, right?
But can you find a way to get him to be on the same page as you, or is it going to come down to where they have to just cut that bloodline and say, okay, well, you're not part of this? And so I think that's going to be the interesting thing that we'll find out, in the last 2 episodes. It sort of, I guess we have some kind of.
I feel like you're teasing us with something,
No, I'm going to stop because I've seen the next episode.
I know.
But yeah, I think it's. I mean, this is what we've been sort of. I think that those times where we don't see him, who's been chasing after him, I think it's cool to see him still become a part of this, so that we can see that whole thing play out, because that's the one thing we sort of been
we've been waiting all season for
we have these side missions, but we still want to see, like, how are you going to deal with this guy, and is he going to change? Is he going to be the same? Has he had his chip removed or not? I mean, we need to find these things out, and I think the next 2 episodes are going to allow us to sort of see that, see how it plays out, and how that'll get us to going to the second season.
And now that I know I'm going to choke up, I'm really, really worried. Slatman, sir, let's talk about one last thing and wrap this up, and that is we see Rex again. Again, it's a holograph, or a hologram rather, but he's wearing a cape. Why?
I mean, you gotta protect yourself from being noticed, and
is that all it is? There's nothing.
I mean, that's my interpretation of it.
Yeah.
The other interpretation of it, if you really want to be technical, is that Ahsoka as Fulcrum wears a very similar outfit when we see her in Rebels a couple times, so he could be playing the role of Fulcrum this early on, but at the same time they've said that he wasn't really active with the rebellion in Rebels, so
but you got to protect yourself before you wreck yourself.
But I really do think it's just, a cape and a hood just to, keep him to help him blend in.
Yeah, that's going to be your shirt. It's just a cape and a hood.
Well, but that could be another Easter egg, because we have like the Princess Leia pulling her hood off when she's doing the hologram thing. So there's another play into that as well.
It's definitely a thing you do in Star Wars, is when you show up, you got to take your
hello there.
Yes. All right. Well, these were fun episodes, and we, as you can probably surmise from our discussion, we can't wait to talk about episodes 15 and 16 on our next podcast. It's kind of exciting. We're finally there. It seems like just yesterday it was like, what? We got 16 episodes to go. Holy crap. And we're there. We're almost there, 1 week away. And we're looking forward to it. It's been a great journey. And of course, we got the great news. We've already said it earlier that we are going to get a season 2. I don't know when we're going to get a season 2. I imagine this takes some time to make. So what would you think, Slattman? A year or 2 away? Or
I mean,
do you think they're already started?
Assuming that the story has already been written, probably end of next year, beginning of the following year. And I mean, you have to think that when it was on Cartoon Network, they were pumping these things out like left, right, and center.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, they could probably get the animation done in a year if the stories are already written. So I don't know. It depends. Did Disney to give them the green light to start working on stories as soon as the first episode was a hit, or did they? And so they've had 16 weeks to draft up 16 new scripts, or are they starting from scratch now?
I have a feeling this was not new news for them.
Well, we don't. But how long were these episodes in the can for the first season? I mean, they could, a lot of times they develop stuff. They pretty much know, hey, we're going to continue this on, and so they start developing stuff ahead of time. So that there could have been the under the table, okay,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
they wait to announce it later.
So
Mhm.
they basically go in saying this is the full story we want to say, and it's like, okay, how many seasons can you make of that and split it up that way?
Yeah, probably.
Is that what you're saying,
Yeah.
Christopher?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going with same date. Same date this one released.
Oh, really?
But
Next
they'll
year?
drop it. Yeah.
March 4 or May 4th,
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome.
around ish.
Around, yeah, I think that
Yeah.
they'll do that again for this one at least.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, if they are making them out as quickly as you're saying, the quality of work they're doing is extraordinary. I think this is so well animated. So well animated.
I think it'll also be easier for season 2 because they already have the models for the main characters.
Mhm.
So
It's true. It's true.
so
All right. Well, let's go ahead and end it there. If you're still listening, we hope you enjoyed this double review. And we hope you come back for the next one for 15 and 16. If you would do so, hit the subscribe button or share with a friend. That would do us wonders. And of course, we'd love to hear your comments of what you think of the Bad Batch. Slatman, Christopher, Vanessa, thank you for joining me. As always, this is a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And the news about season 2 has got me so excited for next year. But of course, we have a lot more to cover in Star Wars and Marvel between now and then, just from Disney Plus alone. What If starts Wednesday in just a couple days, and then we have just a gaggle of stuff lined up. I'm not even going to go through it all because it's amazing. All right. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me.
yeah, thanks for having us. It's always a blast.
Mhm.
The force is always strong with these conversations.
Certainly. All right. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.